Dear Florent, I really enjoyed the videos you put out recently and they inspired me to write to you as well. My problem is that I never feel good enough at art. I have high hopes and high expectations for myself, sometimes reasonable, sometimes unhealthy. A lot of times I can't distinguish between the two. I'm always seeing people at a much higher skill level than I, and even though I know everyone is on their own journey, I'm disheartened and afraid. There is this looming fear that I'll never be good enough to make a career out of my art, or to be at the skill that these people are. It doesn't stop me from doing art though, because as much as I fear failure, I love what I do. I could never stop drawing and painting. It is that thing that I could get lost in for hours and days at a time and not notice how time has passed. I have no idea how to make a career out of my art because I don't know how to translate my wants to others' needs. Essentially, I don't know how to make a living off my art. I worry about that a lot, and that's where the "what if I'm not good enough" thing comes in. I'm still in high school, but I want to make the most of my time before I have to go out into the real world and figure as much out as I can. Like everyone else, I want to be happy and make a successful career out of what I love most. But can I even do this? How is art even useful to people? Why would anyone want anything I make? What do I have to offer to the world? Aroa. Dear Aroa, thank you very much for writing to me, and thank you for your patience. I wanted to write sooner, but the question is so vast that I needed more time to give you a clear response. It seems that there are two different questions in your mind. Am I good enough, and how can I make a living out of art? It's important that you don't collide them into a single incoherent fear, because that would be the worst way to tackle both issues. One thing is certain, you don't need to be good to make a living out of art. Many horrible artists have reached tremendous success selling all sorts of mess to gullible people, like scribbles, canvases with nothing on it, or even trash and excrements. But I guess that's not what you had in mind anyway. Based on your expectations, I assume you don't necessarily want to follow the road of the modernists. Fair enough. But if modern art was good for one thing, it has at least proven that being good is not a prerequisite to make a living out of art. Talent and hard work aren't what put money in the pocket of the artist. It's very sad to say, but it's the truth. There is something else, but I'll come back to this later. If you worry about your skills, your determination, and your ability to improve, it means one thing. You don't just want to be an artist, you want to be a good artist, maybe a great artist. That's the most difficult thing actually, and I'm not sure I can help you there. However, I can talk about your expectations. Will you be good enough? Really, it depends on how you conduct yourself in front of difficulty, because I tell you, what you want to do is going to be extremely difficult. You need to avoid two traps, putting the bar too high and putting it too low. Find the right balance between challenging and impossible, and every time you succeed, raise the bar a little bit just so that you get a little bit better every time. If you do that by applying yourself to the best of your ability every time, which I'm confident you will, sooner or later you will be better than you ever thought you could be. If you fail, it means that the bar was too high for your current set of abilities, so adjust your goals and start again. Great art is not born in a one-time burst of genius. It is born out of the quiet daily struggle of routine and courage. Every time you fail, find the strength in you to say, I will start again tomorrow. About your ambition, it's a good thing to have high hopes for yourself. Be ambitious. However, don't fall into the trap of comparing yourself to others. Your ambition needs to be focused on self-improvement. Ask yourself, with every new artwork, how can this one be better than the previous ones? Not, how can this one be better than what this person or that person makes? Don't get me wrong, it's a good thing to have role models, especially among other artists. We call that being influenced, and we all have masters who have inspired us and shaped our vision. Your master is like a beacon in the middle of the night. Being influenced by other artists is essential, and it's not the same as comparing your skill level to them. When you're influenced by another artist, you admire how they were able to tell their stories, and it inspires you to tell your own story. On the other side, when you compare your technical skill level, you don't think about the story, you just look at the surface with jealousy. You look at the other artist with envy, thinking, wait a minute, it should have been me in their shoes, it's unfair. Or worse, gosh, I wish they could fail miserably so that I could be happy about their downfall. It's pretty common to be jealous of the success of others, but you need to rid your mind of this sort of envy. It's a very vicious spiral that only leads to self-loathing. As you said, everyone is on their own journey. When you see the success of others, you don't know how hard they've worked to reach this level. And even if it's just unfair, and even if they are naturally gifted while you have to work like a madman, be happy for them and keep working on yourself. Remember that it never pays to compare yourself to other artists. There will always be someone better than you, but no one can tell your story. Your art needs to be about your story. It needs to define you and no one else. When comparing yourself, you only see technique, and technique is important, but it's not sufficient. If you are influenced by other artists, let it shape your vision, and let it be about telling your story, not about mere imitation. So, will you be good enough? It depends on the story you will tell, and not only on the skill level you will reach. Now, let's come back to the second thing you were worried about. How to make a career out of your art. This is a completely different thing. If you ever have to decide between making great art and making a career, always choose the first one. You can make a career out of selling art, just as you can make a career out of selling soap. That's the awful truth that modern art has revealed to the world. There is no difference of nature between selling a Monet and selling a can of soup. It's all about selling, and it's all about the market. For art, we call it the art market, and if you want to be successful, you will need to study it and find your way into it. That's it. If you follow the traditional way to make a living out of your art, the art market is what is going to guide your decisions. You will need to meet the right people, be at the right place at the right time, make yourself visible, work on your marketing skills, read books on how to sell your paintings, meet gallery owners, find patronage, apply for salons, flatter influential people, make a brand out of your name, sell yourself. You may have noticed that the quality of the artwork is not really a part of this long list of things you need to do to succeed as an artist. And you might think that it sucks that it works like this. That's how it works. If you're smart, you can combine making great art and successfully selling it. Once you learn how the art market works, it's not that bad. And maybe I've painted it with a very cynical brush and I shouldn't be so hard. There are actually a lot of good people in the art world interested in good art. My advice is to stick to your niche. Find people interested in your style. Find galleries that are interested specifically in the type of artwork you can provide. Not every gallery owner tries to sell scribbles to gullible collectors. Ultimately, don't give up on your ambition to make the greatest art you can imagine. It will pay off in the end. Make art so great that nobody can ignore it. Just keep in mind that you will need more than only your painting skills to sell your art. The world of art is changing. Social media take a more prevalent role now, and creators have more influence than ever because they can be connected directly to those interested in what they do. If people look at what you do and think that it's great art, you will find a way to be successful. You're pretty young, and who knows what social media will be like for artists in a few years. One thing is for sure, it's a great way to get visibility and show the world what you do. Finally, as an emerging artist, or even as an experienced one actually, know that it's often necessary to have other sources of income. Many artists teach or work as tutors, but it's more something you can do when you're established, at least technically. In the very beginning, while you're still learning, it might be a good idea to take a day job. Ideally, something connected to the art world, but let's be honest, it's mostly something to pay the bills and buy art material. If it means working part-time at the gas station, so be it. Take the best job you can find, and don't imagine that painting with an empty stomach is fun or productive. To be fully invested in your art, you need stability and safety. Stability and safety. The idea of the starving artist is a romantic fantasy, but practically speaking, it doesn't work. Like I said, prioritize stability. Find a way to make your art journey financially sustainable, and be aware that it might take a couple of years until you can live only from your art. This is why getting a day job is not a shame. More power to you if you have the courage to work on the side and make your art by burning the midnight oil. Think of it as a marathon and always keep this long-term vision. Do whatever it takes to make it happen, and keep in mind that it won't happen overnight. The thing is that you need to make your art work before you can make art your work. I'm going to finish with your final questions, and it's going to be quick. Can I even do this? Sure. If you really want it, just remember that art doesn't have to be a career. Your priority should always be to make the art, even if it doesn't pay, even if it's not your career, even if nobody is interested. Make the art because it's worth making, even if you never get to be a professional artist. What matters is not to make art as your work, but to make art, period. For the remaining questions, how is art even useful to people? Why would anyone want anything I make? And what do I have to offer to the world? For that, I'm afraid only you can respond, and you will respond with the art you'll make. I wish you the best for your artistic journey. It's going to be a long one. Florent.